We've had a wonderful video of Jacinda Ardern now with Oprah after speaking to students or alumni of graduating alumni of German systems infiltrated Yale, Hermetic Yale, or Rosicrucian Yale, Imperial Yale, from our last video that we were discussing. And we now have this Oprah Jacinda Ardern video with the intent of making you feel helpless amidst all of this chaos and harm. They no longer... Have you realized that there's now just this vacuous space that they haven't filled yet because they can't target you with WEF or Fauci or WHO anymore, the World Health Organization or World Economic Forum. They can no longer point the finger at all of those puppets anymore. And they don't particularly care. I mean, they don't care that they give the Prime Minister who committed democide in Australia and New Zealand especially a damehood, and she's a crown pleb. New Zealand is so transparent because they're so insignificant to the world. The Five Eyes. No American, no Britain, maybe not even Australians really look into the fact that they're crown owned and that they fully disclose that. The government fully discloses that New Zealand is run by the Crown. It is probably the only country out of the Five Eyes, because of its insignificance, that fully discloses it and is transparent about it. And I can give you two sources here that show that. But the intent, this vacuous intent of still creating this chaos so that you will urgently be so hungry for order, the order that they'll give you, the centralised imperial order, the new restructure, the socialist restructure that they're going to give you, that you'll be just begging for it. You'll be begging for it. And they create this chaos and enable this woman without ever thinking that you have joined the dots in terms of them failing to protect you, which is their duty, their sworn duty by oath, the monarchy and the monarch. That in the Commonwealth and the Five Eyes, that the monarch, the head of our state, is meant to protect us with their life. They're meant to serve their whole life to serve us, to protect us. That's the whole point of the constitutions. That's the whole point of America still keeping Britain supposedly as it's to keep its constitution when the revolution happened, because they still wanted Britain's protection and trade. And yet they've killed our trade. They've killed our economy, and our economy is in our trade, and we can't even afford homes anymore. And they've forced us into a socialist, preparing us for a socialist environment, a socialist imprisonment, our monarchy that's sworn to protect us. I'm sorry if this is on repeat because I've accidentally deleted half of this movie that I'm putting together, this video. But they've done that, and then they've harmed us like this, and then they flaunt it to ensure that their plans proceed. And they think we won't notice. They think we won't feel the betrayal or notice the betrayal, that we've forgotten their duty because they just wave hands and have photos of their children and them in jeans and the fake cancer. So it's all good, right? It's all good. And we just should be loyal. I mean, they're so relevant and they haven't hurt us. That's what you're meant to believe. But how? How when that's their actual duty and their role? That's what they're born to do, supposedly. So this is the first source that shows you this is a page, a government page, data, government New Zealand, Discover News data. It's all a part of, the global restructure. Here's a post in 2019. If you are a New Zealand-based tertiary or Crown Research Institute or Crown entity releasing open data, get in touch to get yours added too. So you've got basically all public institutions are Crown institutions in New Zealand. And they're run by the Crown. And then you've got Hipkins. I really hear about New Zealand. And if you were to look at some New Zealand government sites or government, even government social media pages, like a Twitter page, they are very clear about who the nation is controlled by. They're controlled by the Crown. And even CRI is a Crown Research Institute. That's what it's short for. So they're very, very clear, and they disclose fully that they're governed and owned by the Crown. So the monarch itself and the head of state and this empire and this emperor, COVID emperor.
Did Māori cede sovereignty?
Now, don't mind his word salad. Just go with this statement.
Did Māori cede sovereignty?
Well, no, actually, that's pretty clear. If you follow the various court rulings over time, if you follow all of the academic research, if you actually follow the treaty settlement process, the answer to that question is no. That doesn't mean that the Crown doesn't have sovereignty now, but Māori didn't cede sovereignty in signing the treaty. That's pretty clear. That doesn't mean that the Crown doesn't have sovereignty now, but Māori didn't cede sovereignty in signing the treaty. That's pretty.
So that's Hipkins. That's the guy who actually replaced Ardern for a very short time because it was just so pathetic and weak. But he's the one who replaced Ardern when she was forced to resign, and that's she hasn't suffered any consequences. She was just promoted to Earthshot and received damehood and has had a big payout. Her face has changed a great deal, and now she's a hero, a Crown hero. That's Hipkins saying that New Zealand is owned by the Crown at this point.
Well, no.
Did Māori cede sovereignty?
So, yeah, the Crown the people serving royal family keep flaunting the chaos they orchestrated, relentlessly betraying our trust. And this is what is tiring and hurtful, and this is the outcome that I see whenever I see little theatrics and games and mind games like this and psyops of putting or publicly enabling Ardern after what she did. It's extremely hurtful. It's extremely hurtful to how we've existed under the monarchy, how we've existed under the Crown. Because if you look at New Zealand, it's a very transparent structure and situation and governance, Crown governance. And so you don't have to look at Ardern and go, oh, isn't she that cow that did this and led New Zealand into democide or into COVID? She it's a lot more transparent when you look at New Zealand and you look at what they disclose and how transparent they are. So at this point, you know, we've looked at the fact that, well, I'll say it in a minute. But this is nothing short of just the royal family orchestrating or being a part of this orchestration of Ardern being enabled and showing chaos, constantly harming us and hurting us. Now, I have to remind you that under oath, the monarch is sworn to protect us and serve us. That's meant to be what they do. That's why they are a monarch and they have a monarchy. It's not to be an empire or an emperor or empress. They're meant to serve. They're meant to be. That's why they're a king and queen. That's different from being an emperor. So as heads of state, or as head of state for us, they are meant to serve us dutifully. That's why they're paid. That's why we pay them. That's why they're rich and we're not. That's why we pay them through our taxes. That's why we serve, we exchange, even though that shouldn't be it. But it is. That's supposedly justified because we're protected. That's the whole point of a British constitution. That's the whole point of the Holy Roman Empire constitution, supposedly, is that, even with America, is that we were meant to be protected. And economically, Britain was meant to take care of each nation because it would open up trade, it would open up our markets, and we would become more fruitful. Later on, it opened ourselves up to debt. It opened ourselves up to their banking system. And it created a new financial slavery with taxes and with loans and with capital and so forth. It created a new kind of slavery. So, but that's what we're meant to believe. And by oath, that's what we're sold, is that the monarch is meant to protect us, even in terms of protecting us from our own government. So if our Prime Minister, like Jacinda Ardern, went against us and tried to kill us, tried to silence us, tried to cause the division and absolute chaos and harm to us, that the monarch would step in and remove her, like they did with Gough Whitlam in Australia. They have a Governor General for that, and so they are the spokesperson for the Privy Council and for the Cabinet and for the monarch, and they act for the monarch in our countries, and they remove the Prime Minister if need be, because they're meant to protect us. And when COVID happened, irrespective of whether vaccines were developed and how they were developed and how they were patented and and by whom, and that whole fake China setup and the whole fake America setup. Despite all of that and Britain's direct involvement with Wellcome Trust, with Poirot Institute, with Oxford University, despite all of that, and also the fact that Prince William, Princess Catherine, the Queen, directly encouraged us to not be selfish, to think of others, to think of our family and friends, and to get vaccinated. Despite all of that, media too, and to ignore the misinformation, to ignore the fact that you have health issues, that to still get vaccinated. Despite all of that as well, we had to deal with our own governance and our own tyranny and lockdowns and the fear-mongering and something that we never experienced that was completely out of this world. Completely out of this world. We didn't know how to process it or deal with it. And not once did the Crown step in. Not once did the monarch step in and take us under their wing and protect us from what ensued. And no one pulls a Trump campaign and excuses the monarch and says, oh, they were blindsided. They didn't know. Because they don't even need to. No one is questioning it. No one is wondering how the hell did the monarch allow this across the Five Eyes? And how was it so strongly and forcefully implemented across the Five Eyes? They couldn't really do it in America, but they did it definitely in New Zealand and Australia. And it was bad. It was bad. They didn't care if you were homeless. They didn't care if you were sleeping in your car. They just said, oh, well, you can collect food stamps. They didn't care if you had to cross a border interstate to survive. You would have to be vaccinated because you would have to show your records at the border. They didn't care about who you were, what you did. And the only way you could protect yourself from what happened would be if you were wealthy enough and you weren't in a particular industry to not require, or that you weren't traveling, to not require the vaccines. There were no, in the news and media, there was no one objecting or opposing the vaccines. There was no one opposing COVID. There was no misinformation. Possibly that was happening online, but I definitely wasn't even online at that point, so I can't even. That was not what we experienced, not in a long shot. So that's been completely polarized now, but that's not what we endured. And now we have to deal with this situation where the monarch refuses accountability and refuses to protect us and continues to hurt us and harm us relentlessly, and then flaunts it and doesn't expect anyone to say anything. Doesn't expect any Australian, any New Zealander to say anything to to help themselves, to have a voice. To demand their freedom and their rights. They don't expect that to happen. They will just censor you anyway. So the best hope I have of doing that is directly addressing them and directly addressing this situation, this current situation, and exposing it. As Ardern, just evil. She's completely evil. And she thinks everything, she believes everything she says, which is just complete manipulation. There's our heir serving us, serving elitism and aristocracy in the empire, an imperial agenda. That goes against us and that controls us and controls our population numbers. So there's no fight back. So this is to them. You kill our people, you kill our freedom with inflation and taxes and imperial policy. You kill national sovereignty. You destroy and steal our land and natural resources, and you fail at your fake job as monarch of our nations. You've betrayed us. We trusted you. We loved you. We protected you. While you protect you and every evil we have to endure for your fucking restructure. All you think about is elitism and killing off your slaves. Black, white, yellow. Resources, control, and endless suffering. And that's my response to Elizabeth Ardern, to Jacinda Ardern talking with Oprah today. And yeah, it's a reality that I think I haven't. I guess in fragments I've addressed with you. I haven't fully just outright said it, but this is what the realization I had to face, and what many Australians and New Zealanders and everyone will have to face. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But at least I don't even know what to say. I'm glad that I care enough to have a voice and to make sure my voice is heard in any way possible, even if it's, has a very small effect or, yeah. At least I'm not going to tell you all about spike proteins and how to cure yourself from the spike proteins, all the metals and all that stuff, all that fear mongering and all that extra harm. I don't think we need it. I don't think we need any more harm than what they've done to us. I don't think we need any of that. I think we need to protect our hearts and our minds and protect each other, and that's the main thing. But I will call out this. This is just evil. Evil, 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 evil. This evil. This It's just pure evil. And they've breached their oath. I can't even tell you how many times, and so severe. And that the UK Parliament does nothing, which is their job. And we've got no protection whatsoever. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll that's quite dark. This is quite a dark video, so I'll stop and try to think of something lighthearted, like Megan's stupid twerking video. That's an easy breakdown that can be done in seconds. Thanks, guys.